Well, you'll be happy to know, I think I sent this out on Twitter, put on my Facebook page, an article coming out of Europe that the world's climate is warming faster than feared, scientists say. And I find that very interesting as the ship in the Antarctica that is locked in, frozen because of all the ice and how the ice cap continues to grow. This ship was going up. It's funny because they were looking at global warming. They were doing research on global warming, and they're locked in with ice. I just think that's funny. But anyway, they did get everybody off onto another icebreaker that was trying to get to them and couldn't make it because of the ice. But the world's climate is warming faster. So Al Gore, fear not. You can come out of hiding over all the global warming articles that were talking about what a joke it was. You can now come out of hiding because the Telegraph in Europe is saying that, don't worry, global warming is alive and well. That should make everybody feel good. Anyway, you're listening to Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. It's great to be here. I'll take a quick look at commodities because I want to tell you oil is at $97.72. Last week, I don't even know what day it is. The week, I don't know. I think it was Monday. Monday, it was $100 a barrel. Last week, it was $100 a barrel, a couple days off and on, heading, in that 99, 98. It's at 97.72. It is down. Gold is up right now, 1220. Gold is at 1220. Sounds pretty good. It's been so long. Silver over 20. And we see natural gas is up today. It's at 430, off its highs from the end of 2013. So that's where we are. We're going to try this year another thing. We're going to do another special, a little bit of a special feature, so to speak. But I'm going to ask every Monday Sandy Rios. You all know Sandy. She's on right before I am. Sandy is the AFA's, I don't know what her title is, Government Affairs Political Correspondent in Washington. Sandy Rios is wonderful as far as having her ear to the street in Washington, D.C. I'm going to ask Sandy to come in on Monday and talk about a pressing political issue, something that I might not talk about or spend any time on that is important to you, because we want our listeners, obviously, to be up to date on all of those issues. So Sandy is going to come on in the first segment on Monday mornings and try to do that with us and for us, and I'm looking forward to that. So this Monday, when Sandy comes on, she's going to talk about what she believes is one of the and there's probably many. This is going to be difficult, I'm sure, for Sandy to narrow down, but Sandy's going to talk about what she believes is the pressing political issue of 2014. So I got the idea. I sent that to her this morning because I was asked on another talk show this morning early on another network what I believed was going to be 2014's most pressing issue headed into 2014. So I thought of that from a political standpoint. Anyway, you're listening to American Family Radio, Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. We're going to get to the phones, 866-300-9298. All the indices are scheduled to open negative. There's a lot of talk, by the way, folks out there. You'll hear it this week, at least in the financial news, that the first week of January is a good indicator of where the market's gone for the year. Well, it wasn't last year, 2013. It wasn't the year before. I don't know that it will be this year. But there's a lot of people that are actually waiting for that. So I am too. I'm waiting for the whole month of January. Actually, I'm anxious to see what happens and what happens from a political front as well. Let me go to David. David calling us from Ohio. Hey, David.
Hey.
How are you, David?
Hi, Mr. Celia.
How are you? Go ahead. Good morning to you.
The question I had was there was two. The first one was, I forget what it's called, but it's where you put the money in it's where, like, one of my brothers and me would go to a lawyer or whoever and draw up something, and my dad would put his farm ground into a thing, and after 5 years it becomes ours.
Yes.
The thing I don't agree with that, I don't agree the government should get a lot of the taxes from your parents' inheritance, but the one thing I don't agree, I mean I agree with that they shouldn't, but the other thing I don't agree with, I was wondering how you felt was as far as being the parents are then protected from, or us kids are then protected from, if our parents go in the nursing home, then they can't get that money. And I don't agree with that. I think that you do pay for the services rendered to you, and you're not protected. You know, I think you should pay for what the services you use and stuff.
Right. Well, let me say this, David. I don't disagree with you on that point for certain because it's biblical. I don't disagree with that. But I would say this, that I would hope everybody listening, and you and your brothers, your sisters, or you know, your siblings, would agree to this, that if you were going to utilize to the letter of the law what you're able to do to protect certain assets, in this case, protect maybe a family farm from being attached and gotten by Medicaid, then I would hope that all of you would understand and be in agreement that the money that is being set aside for the, you know, to be preserved is money that is your mom and dad's money. And that I would hope that all of you would be in agreement that that money would be used to take care of your mom and dad. If you're not in agreement with that, then I would agree with you. It's wrong to do. I mean, I would not agree with anybody that said, well, you know, listen, my mom and dad are going to get old. They're going to go in a nursing home. Hey, whatever happens, happens. But, you know, we want to preserve the money for ourselves. I mean, that's not the right attitude. So I think that there's two things here, David, that you've got to think about. One is the attitude by which you're doing this. There's nothing wrong with utilizing the law as the law allows for you to set aside and preserve. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the attitude by which you're doing it. So I think that you, since you're the one that's bringing this up, need to do a reality check with your siblings. Maybe it's a character check, I'm not sure, and say, you know, look, do we have to understand that any of the assets that are set aside for us has to be in an account that we understand that we're going to have to utilize maybe on a monthly basis or whatever for mom and dad's care. And I think you have to be in agreement with that. And if you're not, then you shouldn't be doing it. So, but having said that, I agree that the laws that are established when it comes to any kind of, whether it be complicated estate planning, simple estate planning, the laws that are established are there for us to utilize so that certain things can be better planned. In other words, to be utilized so we can avoid tax, to be utilized. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's not, you're not avoiding tax, you know, illegally. You're avoiding tax because the law allows you to do that as long as you do proper planning. So there's nothing wrong with that. You're avoiding Medicaid grabbing a hold of these assets. Medicaid thought it was unfair. Medicaid and the IRS thought it was unfair that people would be able to do that. So they changed the look back period from 3 years, the IRS did, to 5 years. So, they made an adjustment because people were unfairly doing that in their opinion. So now it's a 5-year look back period. So there was some compromise, some give on both sides there. And that's the law. So I think it's just the heart in which you do it, I think is really, really important. I agree with your premise. I agree that it's biblical, that we should be honoring our mom and dad, and we should be doing, taking care, particularly when we're taking care of them with their own funds, with their assets that they've worked hard for.
Mr. Steele, the other question I had was, I'm kind of confused about the death tax.
Okay.
federal or state, whichever one it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it $5 million your parents can give, you, not just you, but your family altogether, or is it changed to $1 million now?
Yeah, it's not. First of all, David, it's not what they can. It's not money they can give. So when you hear it's 1 million, when you hear that, when you think about death tax, which is federal inheritance tax, what the 5 million, 1 million, whatever it is a credit to the estate, to the family. What that means is, let's say it's $1 million and the estate is worth $999,000. There would be no inheritance tax due on that money. Anything over $1 million, because that's the credit that they're given, or that each one of them are given. So say it's 2 million. Anything over and above that is taxable by estate tax. So it's not the amount of money that they can give. It has nothing to do with what they're able to give away. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just the credit that the IRS gives. So if you've got farmland that is worth $5 million, and there's a federal estate tax credit of $1 million, you're going to be in a situation, if you receive that as an inheritance, where you're going to have to pay tax on $4 million, which is going to be an enormous amount of tax. And what the biggest problem with the death tax, the biggest problem that I have with this inheritance tax, is that there are third, fourth generation farmers that are needing to give up significant portions of their farm to sell it off in order to pay the tax on all of it. And that's sad. It's wrong. Shouldn't happen. But it is going to continue to happen. And that's where it is right now. So hopefully that gives you some insight. So, really the best thing you can do, David, is encourage all of your family, your parents, your siblings, to sit down with an estate planning attorney to draw up the proper trust in which that they would put the property in the name of the trust. Is there cost associated with that? Yes. There's a transfer tax because a new deed has to be drafted up, recorded, and every state, even in the state of Ohio, there is probably a 1% of the tax appraised value of the property that is going to be paid in a transfer tax. Then you will have to pay the legal fees for a lawyer to draw up a new deed and file it and do all those kinds of things, but well worth those expenses if you can do that. Thank you, David. Great stuff. I sure appreciate your call, and I appreciate you listening. Let me go to Glenn in Arkansas. Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Dan.
How are you? Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you, too. I had a question and a comment, so I guess I'll just begin with the comment. You asked what the impressions of this last fiscal year.
Yes.
And I guess it just comes to mind within the past month, we as a nation celebrated, if celebrated is the right word, the founding of the Federal Reserve 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
With all these problems that we're seeing in our economy and private businesses and just the overbearing, governmental regulations, it really all ties back to that. It's really an unholy alliance that's been working together, the centralized financial powers with corrupt politicians, through the CFR and the Trilateral Commission. But it's really just, for the past 100 years in this nation, we've really seen a brotherhood of darkness form, and they're really driving all the issues behind the scenes. Aside from that, my question is, my wife and I are potential first-time home buyers, and we're trying to reach the 20% threshold as far as for the down payments. We're not quite there. But we heard that there were some changing regulations as it relates to private mortgage insurance and stuff like that. But we're worried about the interest rates rising. You said that we might not see a tapering of the bond purchasing by the Fed, which wouldn't surprise me. But would you think it'd be better to try to get the house before interest rates potentially rise, or would it be better to wait until we have the 20% down payment risk a bond tapering?
Great question, Glenn. When do you think you'd have that 20% by the end of this year?
Yes, we will.
Okay. I mean, I would rather see you wait for the 20% because even if interest rates, and I suspect they will, go up slightly, mortgage rates, 30-year mortgage rates, to go up slightly, and I expect that they might, it's still going to be, from a monthly cash flow standpoint, less than the PMI insurance. The PMI insurance is going to be a lot more of a burden on you per month than is the, even a half or almost even a 1% increase in mortgage rates. Now, I don't think that, I shouldn't say this. I believe that the Fed, in all their corruptness and what they're trying to do, I think the Fed is going to work extremely hard to maintain low 30-year mortgage rates. The housing is just getting some legs under it, and I don't think they're going to want to see mortgage rates hurt that. I'll talk a little bit more about it. I'll just mention a little bit more about it when I get back, Glenn. 866-300-9298.